Hello friends, let us go through today's current affairs and then use them for the purpose of solving MCQs. So we will skill ourselves. So as you all know, what we do in this particular session is we look at important current affairs and then use them for the purpose of knowing how MCQs have to be solved. So today's important topics are repo rate, very important from the point of view of examination, from the point of view of economy. Then we have emergency lending facility, one of which is built in Kashmir. Green hydrogen, you will hear a lot about this as the time goes because India is concentrating on green hydrogen technology. Antimicrobial resistance, mostly associated with TB, but also with other diseases, and now a concern when it comes to poultry industry. And then water scarcity, we have seen that rise especially in urban India. All right, chalo. So repo rate, with respect to repo rate, so repo rate, what is basically repo rate? Repo rate basically is an interest rate for transaction between RBI and banks. All right, transaction between RBI and banks. With respect to repo rate, you have to understand that when repo rate is increased, what will happen? The interest that RBI takes from banks, that also moves up, and hence banks have to pay more on borrowing. All right, banks have to pay more on their borrowings. Now, going up of repo rate basically means that RBI wants to reduce liquidity in the market, and it basically does so for the purpose of controlling inflation. Now, what basically is inflation? Inflation is rise in prices. All right, once this inflation goes out of the safe zone of RBI, what RBI tries to do is it tries to use the tool of repo for the purpose of controlling it. ठीक है, तो देखो इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ने का, the rise in inflation, one of the reasons for it is money in the market. So once you increase the interest rate, what will happen is less people will take loan. Also, what will happen is more people will be interested in keeping their money in bank, right? So in this way basically money supply is controlled, and through the control of money supply, inflation is also controlled. So that basically is what we say to be repo rate, which is a full form of which is repurchase rate. Now RBI, what it has recently done is it has said that it has to take into consideration the tool of repo for the purpose of targeting inflation. Already the repo is quite high at this point of time. All right, and if the repo is basically reduced, so it will ignite the inflation further. Hence it will hold on to the high repo rate that we are seeing today. All right, so let us look at the options that are provided. First, or the question that is provided, consider the following statement: the repurchase rate is the rate at which central bank of the country lends money to commercial bank against securities. Obviously this we have basically seen. ठीक है, this we have basically seen. So it is the loan given by RBI to banks. All right. Second, an increase in repo rate trends towards decrease in money supply in the economy, which can help in controlling inflation. Again, this is also correct. Both the statements are correct, and hence our answer is C, both 1 and 2. Moving on, emergency lending facility. Okay, so emergency lending facility is where you make a basic runway. Emergency lending facility is constructing a basic runway so that during the time of emergency, what can happen? Aid can be provided to areas in difficult terrain. In Kashmir recently, what we have done is we have constructed an ELF, that is emergency lending facility. All right, Kashmir has difficult terrains. It is the state with Himalayas, right? And hence this becomes very important. All right, earthquakes, floods, in this case humanitarian assistance can basically be provided, right? Along with it, there is something called as advanced landing ground. Now, advanced landing grounds are without state-of-the-art facility. These advanced landing grounds are for the purpose of using, they are built for the purpose of taking off of drones or spy planes in frontier areas. All right, more or less emergency landing facility also are built with the same infrastructure which advanced landing grounds are built, but the rationale behind both of them is though different. But otherwise what goes into it, basic construction and infrastructure are same. In fact, advanced landing grounds are built with least infrastructure so that they are not visible to the enemy. Chalo, let us now look at the question provided. Consider the following statements. Advanced landing grounds are state-of-the-art airfields built for spy planes. Not at all. State-of-the-art nahi rehta. It is not state-of-the-art. Emergency landing facility operations provide an opportunity for Indian Air Force aircrafts to undertake operations of humanitarian assistance in disaster relief operations during the times of natural calamities to provide relief. Okay, statement 1 is not correct, statement 2 is correct, hence our answer will be D. The next question. Now this is about green hydrogen, and as I told you now, it will be of immense importance in the coming times, especially in civil services examination. Green hydrogen is basically using hydrogen as source of fuel. All right. It will be basically used in liquid form. But the difficulty with respect to it is as it cools down, as it basically expands. Okay. What we see with respect to hydrogen is as it expands, its properties become different from other gases. As it expands, it starts heating up. Therefore, what has to be done is high pressure has to be used during the time of its heating and most importantly during the time of its cooling. High pressure has to be used during the time of its cooling. All right. With respect to green hydrogen, also remember, though it is called though basically it is called fuel of the future and clean fuel, it is not completely clean. Nitrous oxide basically is an emission from green hydrogen. Alright, when green hydrogen is burned out, nitrous oxide is one of the pollutants that is released. It is one of the pollutants that is basically released. Alright, let us now look at the question. Consider the following statements regarding hydrogen, green hydrogen. Ordinary gas cools down while expanding. Hydrogen at any temperature above its inverse point heats up when when expanding. Now this particular statement, as we have seen, is correct. All right, we have just seen that the property of hydrogen. Second statement, to reach appropriate density for storage, hydrogen is compressed to high pressure than any gas. Yes, we have seen that also. High pressure is basically applied for the purpose of its storage. Third statement, hydrogen combustion engines are not a zero emission solution. Again, this statement is correct because as we have seen, what is released through it? Nitrous oxide. So how many of the statements are correct? All three. So our answer will be C. Our answer basically will be C. Moving on to antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobial resistance. Now this antimicrobial resistance basically is microorganisms adapting to changes in their genetic formatting due to environment or changes in environment. Done. Now these changes, what do? These changes make medicines, especially antiviral drugs, to be ineffective. All right, देखो most prominent cause that has been seen for the most common cause that has been seen for development of antimicrobial resistance is use of medicines unnecessarily, because in that case what will happen is microbes will be used or they will adapt themselves to the medicine and change themselves, or not completing the course of medicines. When you do not complete the course of medicines, now what happens is complete eliminations of microbes will not happen, and because it will not happen, some of them will remain, and these microbes now are introduced to the medicines, so they will adapt accordingly, and the medicine will absolutely become ineffective. So let us look into the question. Consider the following statements regarding antimicrobial resistance. AMR is a natural process that happens over time through genetic changes. Yes, it happens through genetic changes also. All right, what we have just seen is how it can be induced in a faster way, but it can happen with time also. Evolution is part of life, any form of life, not just humans, right? Second, drug resistance infections impact the health of animals and plants, reduce productivity of farms and threaten food security. Absolutely. Dekho, at this point of time, now it is the poultry industry. Why? Because the animals in poultry industry are injected with antibiotics. All right, even when they are not suffering from a particular disease, and these antibiotics basically lead to antimicrobial resistance in them, and hence poultries in India are subjected to deaths, even due to diseases which at one point of time were not considered to be so dangerous for them. For example, simple flu. All right, and the same goes with respect to plants. When you inject medicines into plants without reason, the same will happen. Third statement, antimicrobial resistance only affects bacterial infection and has no impact on viral and fungal infection. Obviously wrong, 100% wrong. Genetic composition can change in bacteria as well as fungal, or as well as in viruses. All right. So how many statements are correct? Basically, there are 2 statements that are correct, hence our answer will be 3. Moving to the last question of the day, and this is related to water scarcity. Water scarcity has been in news because of what we see in Bengaluru. There has been huge water scarcity in Bengaluru, and reasons for them differ. If we look into the reasons, common reasons. So first and foremost, water management plan. Are weak in urbanized India, mostly in urbanized India. ठीक है. Second thing, with respect to water crisis is there has been change in rainfall pattern in India. All right, and therefore planning for water scarcity has become difficult. Either rainfall in an area has increased, that also causes problem, or what we see in many cities of South India, the rainfall has decreased, and that leads to improper management of the water, or inadequate water amount with a particular city. One of the reasons for discrepancies in rainfall is the climate change. It is climate change. Also, with respect to our water bodies, we have not been particularly just. Our water bodies have seen deterioration, especially due to encroachments. All right. Also, what we see is concretization of land. Now, this does not allow replenishment of groundwater. All right. So, which of the following, in the question it is asked, which of the following is not a reason for water scarcity? Okay. This is the reason for water scarcity: low rainfall, urbanization also, climate change also, construction of dam nahi. In fact, construction of dam, if anything, it is basically helping in managing water in a better way. All right, it also has its own negative, but theek hai, this C is therefore the correct answer. All right, friends, thank you so much for going through this video. It is always a pleasure to discuss current affairs with you. Bye.